Salton Sea has got numerous things. You've got, polluted rivers that flow directly into it. The New River from Mexico, it's the only one flowing north, as I told you, which has raw untreated human sewage. You also have mechanical and industrial untreated sewage that goes into it. Additionally, because of the agriculture that takes place in the Imperial Valley, they have to leach the soil of the salts that are in the soil. So they flood the fields, and they have to leach all the salts out of it. Well, all that salt goes down to the Salton Sea as well. And then you've got additionally the pesticides and the herbicides that are utilized as well that go into it. And then finally, we have our storm drain runoff. So all the stuff coming off the streets go into it. So it's kind of like a toxic soup that's down in the, the sea down there. And it's a very shallow body of water. So what happens is during the summer months, it heats up. And usually in July, we have a major algae bloom that takes place in the Salton Sea, where the algae produces hydrogen sulfide that's released into the atmosphere. And when it does that, it depletes the oxygen in the water as well, but it smells really bad. It smells like rotten eggs and everything. It only happens for a few weeks, but it depletes the oxygen. So we have this hydrogen sulfide smell from the algae to start off, and then it's followed by a massive fish die-off because the oxygen's pulled out of the air. So millions of tilapia die off and float to the surface. And then it's followed after that with an avian botulism problem with the brown pelican when they're migrating through. So we get a culmination of a lot of stuff that happens for just a few weeks during the summer, and it's stinky and it's nasty. But then after that, it stops, and then we're back to normal. And then during the cooler months, if you go down there during November, December, January, February, in that time, it's cooler. You don't have that smell. You don't have that problem. It's beautiful down there and everything. But many of the locals, we refer to it as the Salton Sewer because it smells like somebody's septic tank exploded.
So,
but it didn't. It's just a natural process.
So how's the pelicans affected?
Well, they will, because of the fish die-off and everything else, there will be a botulism problem that occurs within the bird population, and then they end up having issues. But where this becomes a major problem is that it's a proven fact that the Salton Sea would dry up and be done and over with in 50 years if we didn't put any water into the Salton Sea. We know that. However, the thing is we're putting all kinds of water in it because we're utilizing water. California utilizes a tremendous amount of water, and part of that is due to the U.S. government making some very tragic mistakes many years ago when they did an audit on how much water was on the Colorado River, and then they divvied it out to the states. Well, they did it on one of the wettest years on record.
Oh, wow.
And whenever they did it, and then California has used its allotment as well as many other surrounding states' allotment of water, and it's become a contentious issue. And California is going to get cut off. But until that time, California is going to use that water, and we use it because of the heavy population. But as large population centers like Las Vegas and Henderson, and then you take Flagstaff, Tucson, Phoenix, a lot of these other larger areas that people did not foresee to grow in the desert have grown, and now we have millions of people in the desert. Water is an issue, and that's a big problem, and that's a reason why we have to think about it, because on the river, we quote tame the Colorado River by building dams on the river, like the Hoover Dam, for instance. There's a number of them that are there, creating these huge reservoirs that are behind them, and which is great. We think there's lots of water behind them, but the problem is that fast-moving water carries lots of material, And that I've already talked to you about the silt that was carried out. Well, whenever you stop water, it's going to silt out. So those big canyons that they figured out how much water was behind the dam, now they're silting from the bottom upwards, so there's less water in the reservoir than what was previously there. Plus, on top of that, we're shrinking in our water levels from the top down, in many areas close to 200 feet. That's a lot of water. Yet we're still operating off of the allotments that were figured out during the wettest time that they could have done it. So water is a big issue, and because they don't have answers for it, that's the reason why we don't hear a lot about it. But it's a big issue. If it's something that you're interested in, I challenge you to read up on it, about the Colorado River, the Salton Sea. Salton Sea is such a huge issue because we've got cities that are down there, we've got county governments that are involved with it, we also have the state of California involved with it, but we also have U.S. involvement as well as Mexican involvement. So there's multiple agencies that have to work together to be able to fix that problem. And the thing is if we go, forget it, let it dry up and blow away, we don't need the water, we're not worried about it. The problem is, okay, I could talk to you about biological and ecological concerns, but for most people that doesn't hit home. I'll tell you about the economic hit that we're going to get hit with, and it's going to be coming from our medical side, because all of those toxins that I told you about that were on the floor of the Salton Sea, you also have to remember, I told you this is fine particulate matter that filtered that water. It's referred to as PM10. If that dust gets kicked up, you breathe it in your lungs, our body lacks the ability to rid itself of it. It's very dangerous. That's the reason why, as development takes place in the desert, they have to wet down the developments to keep the dust down, because it's an environmental problem. Well, here, not only do you have PM10, but you have all of those toxins and everything else, that we have westerly prevailing winds west to east going across the United States. That dust cloud gets kicked up, goes across the southern tier of the United States. What do you think it's going to do to medical issues, dealing with pulmonary, heart, all kinds of other problems, driving up healthcare costs and everything for us? That's a problem that most people can understand. That's not even addressing the issue that the migratory birds of North America, 98% of them fly through there. That is a water stop and a feeding stop. You take it away, they don't have it anymore, because we took it away from Mexico, because Mexico doesn't have it. That's the only other source they have for it. So it's an interesting thing to review and see. So anyways, that's kind of the story with that. At this point, this is